Hey everybody, today is June 26, 2026, and today I'm going to talk about the price of Bitcoin, where I see the price of Bitcoin headed for the month of July. Before we begin, please read the disclaimer and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so where we left off last time was in late May, around over here, and I basically, I was very bullish and I thought that Bitcoin, so basically we've been trapped under the 200-day moving average. Let me get a clean chart for you. Over here, we had trouble breaking through, and I said that I was hopeful that we would come up and break through this level and go up higher. In fact, let me address the elephant in the room, right? This was basically my prediction, right? I had this on X. If you don't follow me, please follow me on EddieLux_ on X. And I basically drew this line and said that I thought that this would happen. This pattern where we just rip up higher and just continue up higher further. And I was wrong. So I'll be the first person to admit that I was wrong. Basically, I thought something like this would happen. Instead, we ended up rolling over and went down and retested the 200-day moving average, right? A very critical level of support, and I'll get into that later. But basically, yeah, I just want to start this video off by saying that I was wrong, and yeah, I'll be the first one to admit that, right? It sucks, but it is what it is. This is the markets, right? It's all about probabilities. I thought the probability that it would go up was a lot higher than it actually was, and yeah, it came down. It tried to hold this support level, right? Previous resistance turned to support over here. Came down, it tried, but it broke below. That should have been the first warning sign. And when we couldn't hold the 100-day moving average, which was its gold line, it literally just plunged, like literally just plunged straight down, right? Broke through this level of support. And you can see how, let me just draw a straighter line here. You can see how it came back up to try to break through again, right? This was the previous level of support, which held earlier this month, February, March. We tried to go up, we failed, we got rejected, and it just plunged even more, right? So now we're at new 52 weeks low at around 58K, right? Yeah, so 58K. So the question is this level going to hold? Is this going to be the final bottom for this bear market, right? Or is it going to go down even more? So remember what I said earlier, the 200-day moving average, sorry, this 200-week moving average, which is this blue line. This is a critical level of support. If you look back, all the way back till, this is 2013, right? Every time Bitcoin went back, and we always held this level of support. Sometimes we even dipped below it, but we always held and it went up, right? Came back down. This is the 2018, 2019 bear market, came back down, held the level, the 200-week moving average. This is COVID, plunged below, got back above, and it ripped up higher, right? The most recent bear market, or the previous bear market, was 2022, right? Where we actually lost the level of support, and then we actually plunged lower. So just to give you an idea, when we lost the 200-week moving average, Bitcoin went down 30% lower. So what would that look like here? If we lose the 200-week moving average, 30%, roughly 42,000. Actually, let's do that again, around here. So yeah, that's about just over 30%. So if we lose the 200-week, which we already lost it, right? So yeah, about 42,000, right? If we follow the same magnitude. Now, of course, every cycle in the bear market, the magnitude of the drop and also the rise tends to be a lot less than the previous ones, right? Due to diminishing returns. So from the last cycle, from the 2021 top to 2022 bottom, Bitcoin fell 77%. So far, from the October high to now, we've only fallen 54%, right? Now, that doesn't mean it's going to go down 77%. Like I said, every bear market tends to have a slower and lower magnitude drop. So again, if we do fall 42, it would still be below 77%. So I would say worst case scenario is 42,000, right? And this would align with support level around here, right? And also around this level, and you can see how much price action there was around these levels, right? So usually Bitcoin is like a magnet. It likes to drop down to levels where there's a lot of price action to try to find support, right? Now the next level, I think we're already here around 60,000. You can see this was the previous high in 2021. It was also an area we chopped sideways for months in 2024, right? So now we're at this level again. So the question is, are we going to hold this level? Now, you can also look at the Fibonacci lines, which I find very helpful, right? You can see that this Fibonacci line was drawn from the last cycle, top to the bottom, and it gave us support levels, right? And you can see that, again, 2024 chopped in between these Fibonacci lines, and that's where we are now. And I do think that we're probably going to chop sideways for a while, but the question is, are we going to be able to hold the 200-week, or are we going to plunge below? Because if we don't hold the 200-week, we might actually plunge down to, again, 50,000 and then potentially down to 42, which again, 42,000 is this Fibonacci level, right? Funny how all these support lines tend to hold up, right? Again, this area of support. So this is the level I'm looking at, right? Of course, 60,000 is the critical level. The lowest we've fallen so far, this just a couple of days ago, was 58,000. So the question is, are we going to be able to hold 60,000, or at least close above 200-week moving average, which is at 62,400, right? And that's going to close on Sunday. So this is the most important thing that I'm looking for within the next 2 to 3 days is, is Bitcoin going to close the week above the 200 week moving average? Because if it closes below, we might see something ugly like this, where it plunges 30%. Maybe not as much because again, every cycle is a little different. It tends to be less magnitude drop, but even then that could bring us down. Let me draw the chart. See, yeah, so 30% would be down 42, but let's say it goes down a little bit less, maybe like 25 or 20%. That would still be in the 40,000s, right? Just a 20% drop would bring us down to 50,000. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is something that's possible, and we always want to look at possibilities, right? But the most important question is the probability. For now, I would say the probability is higher that we go lower as long as we stay under the 200 week moving average, right? This blue line, we have to stay above it. We have to close above it. If we close above it, the bulls will be more emboldened. The bears will be stopped out of position, and we'll probably have a better chance of holding this level and pushing up higher. But if we do close below it on Sunday, we're probably going to see the month of July, something like this, where we just plunge lower and try to find support down here. But we do have support level, right? This Fibonacci support level, all the way down to 48 and then 42, right? So we can use these as guidelines, not 100% accurate, but it does help from a trader's perspective. So again, let's try to zoom out to the monthly chart. Monthly chart, we are right on the 50-month moving average, this silver line. Again, we have, in the past, we've held it pretty well, right? Over here in 2015, over here during 2019, during COVID, we kind of wicked below it, but we closed above. And it was only recently in 2022 where we actually started closing below the 50-month moving average, but we found our way above it. And once we found our way above it, it went up a lot higher, right? So now we're ready, we're just touching on it and we're trying to bounce off of it. So again, we're going to have to see if the monthly close is going to be above or below the 50-month, which is at 59,286, right? So again, these are very important levels to watch. So what are some challenges we have to look at? So one of the challenges is interest rates, right? Inflation rate has been rising over the last 3 months. And the new Fed, Kevin Warsh, recently held rates steady, but there's a lot of pressure to raise rates. Now, he was appointed, or he was recommended by President Trump because President Trump wanted him, he was supposed to be dovish, right? More dovish than Powell. And President Trump is expecting him to cut rates. So there's some people who think he's going to cut rates. Some people think he's just going to hold steady. But I mean, honestly, there's a lot of pressure to raise rates, right? Even though that's not necessarily good for the consumer. There's already high inflation. That's going to affect the national debt interest payments, which we're already paying over $1 trillion a year. So it's just not going to be good. But I mean, when you look at the rate of inflation, I mean, what else could they do, right? They have a tough position to be in. But potential good news is that the Iran war is basically close to ending. I mean, that's what they've said. And the Strait of Hormuz is open. But at the same time, it's like, can you really trust this administration, right? Like, who knows what's going on behind the scenes, right? It could be, back on again, like all of a sudden. So for now, just cautiously waiting to see if there is like a finalized like deal that's signed. But yeah, I mean, oil has been coming down. The AI stocks have recovered for the most part. But yeah, I mean, these are sort of things we want to think about, right? So just very quickly, the stock market has been consolidating for the previous month of June. And my prediction is that I do think we're going to come up, fill this gap, and probably move sideways and then push up higher, right? But I do think some AI names are a bit overbought, so we might see a correction in those. But in terms of, so if that were to happen, right, obviously Bitcoin does follow the stock market to a certain extent, especially NASDAQ, right? Because it is considered a risk-on asset. So at the same time, that might put more downward pressure on Bitcoin, so that wouldn't be good. But for now, I feel like there's just so much. I mean, let's look at the indicator like RSI, right? There's just so much downward pressure, right? Look how overbought this is. And by the way, in early June, this is the most overbought daily RSI. I think since like November 2018, right? So it's been many years since we've been this oversold. So, and there's a lot of fear that you can see right here. I mean, look at the fear and greed index at 13. And look at yesterday, last week, last month, it's just extreme fear across the board, right? There's so much fear. There's so many people on X, on social media who've given up on Bitcoin, right? And they're all jumping on the AI bandwagon right now, which is understandable. AI is outperforming, right? It's kicking crypto's butt right now. So it's understandable people want to rotate out of that. But at the same time, that also presents a favorable risk reward, right? For longs down here. And if you look at how oversold it is, and we also have like a small bullish divergence, right? See how the price is going down, but the RSI is going up. So that could potentially be a bullish divergence that ends up playing out to the upside. But the most important thing is that we stay above the 200 week moving average. which is at 62,400, right? If the longer we stay below that level, the more likely we are to go lower. So again, this is going to be a challenge. You can see how there's a lot of support down here, and we broke below and we got rejected over here. So now this level around 65,000 is going to be resistance, right? So that might take some time to break above. But if we break above, that will increase the chance of us going higher, right? So that's what I'm looking for the daily, weekly, and the monthly. So let's look at some of the bigger picture chart indicators, right? So this is a 2-year multiplier, and this basically gives us an idea of when is a good time to buy or sell. This is going back all the way to 2012, right? So you can see that when it's above this red-orange line, it's usually a good time to sell, right? Now, when it's below the green line, it's usually a good time to buy. So right now we're below the green lines, and historically this has been a good indicator to give us an idea of when to buy or sell. And of course you can see that every cycle the magnitude is less and less. We go up a lot less. We also go down. Well, this time we get down a lot, but that's because we haven't really the chart hasn't really adjusted much because the magnitude isn't as high. But technically we're still below the green line, so this chart is telling us that it's probably a good time to buy right now, right? Especially with all this fear in the market. Pi cycle top indicator is generally a good indicator to tell you when to get out of the market. If you can see the chart, when the chart does go below the orange line, it's generally a good time to buy, right? When every time the chart over the last several cycles, this is going all the way back to 2012, is below the orange line, it's usually a good time to buy. And that's where we are now. Now, when the line goes above the orange line and it stays above, it makes higher lows, higher highs, that's usually a sign that the bull market has resumed. And we're not quite there yet. We're still in this bear market. So that's just something to keep your eye on, right? The last chart we'll look at is the rainbow indicator. I know this is kind of a cliche. Everyone brings this chart up. You know, it's almost like you want to laugh at it, right? But generally, the last cycle, we kind of fell off the rainbow, right? Over here. But that was a good time to belong, right? And that's where we are now. We've fallen off the rainbow again. We fall off the rainbow again. But that in hindsight, that's usually a good time to buy, right? So again, I know it's kind of a silly cliche, the rainbow chart, but generally speaking, this is telling us it's a good time to buy. So all these indicators, the fear, like this is all telling us that it's probably a good time to buy. The RSI being super oversold right now. I mean, we're just like, right? I mean, again, the weekly chart also has a bullish divergence. So remember how I said that the daily with the price going down and RSI going up. Now look at what's happening with the weekly, right? The weekly is also going down, but the RSI is making higher lows. It's going up, right? So these are two daily and weekly bullish divergence, and that usually plays out pretty well. But yeah, we want to watch out for the monthly, 50-week. We want to stay above. Same thing with the weekly. This is probably most critical is the 200-week moving average, which is going to close in a couple days, right? We want to stay above the blue line, stay above the 200-week moving average, because if we don't, we might see something like this where it just plunges even more, right? So reclaim this level and daily chart. So what is my prediction for the month of July, right? I think that it's very simple. If we close the week below the 200-week, if we stay below 200-week, it's probably going to go down more, right? Something like in late 2022, right? But that could be a good buying opportunity if you still have cash left over, right? But if we're able to close above the 200-week, then we have to move up and try to reclaim 65,000, right? Because this level, 65,000, was our previous level of support in February and March, and we lost that, and we got rejected a couple days ago, right? 2 weeks ago, right? So now we have to work to reclaim. Sorry, last week. Last week. So now we have to work to reclaim this level. Probably come up, push up, maybe come down, retest it, and then push up higher. Then we have to reclaim this level, which we got rejected from, and of course break above the 200-day moving average, which is probably going to come down a little bit. But since we got rejected, it's going to be strong resistance, right? Let's get rid of that. So that's what I'm looking for in the short term, weekly and monthly terms. And yeah, I'll probably come back in the end of July around this area this time, and we'll provide an update and see where we are then. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, useful, informative, please like the video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for update. Appreciate our support. Thank you again, and have a great day.